Sir, they put a sign up anyway.
Yeah. Look at that. We're live here.
Not that I've been going by there.
Yeah. All right, we got us recording there.
Yep.
Looks like we're live streaming.
Yep.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of ATL On Fire, the podcast where we talk all things Atlanta United football and all things soccer. We are missing a key person, Dave, but you made the journey. Carmen is over at Oglethorpe, I believe, watching a soccer game. But thanks for joining.
Yeah, it's like the good old days with just you
Yeah.
and me. So without Carmen, it's bound to go off the rails.
Yeah, there's going to be some technical difficulties here, but
Wow.
bear with us.
Could be worse than that.
How are things going in your world, Dave? Good?
Things are going well. Yeah, I'm doing good. Busy.
Well,
Quite good busy.
You've brought us a lovely wine here. What are we drinking?
We're drinking a Bordeaux. So is that enough said? Aurore de Duzac Margaux.
Now, is that foreshadowing, you think, that you've done here with a Bordeaux, a French wine?
I hope not.
You hope not.
I'm trying to counteract to be like, we've had enough French.
Yeah.
For those of you who are not in the know, he's talking about Patrick Vieira.
Yeah, there's some rumors out there, nothing confirmed, but sounds like he is one of the Atlanta United
it's either
prospects.
Him or Valentino.
It can't be Valentino. That'd be
he's still in the mix. He's been interviewed.
Yeah, you should just say no.
Just say no, kids.
All right. Before we get into it, thank you for bringing the wine. It's really nice. It's I feel like I need the second sip for it to settle in.
Yeah, it's dry.
It's very dry and pungent. Is that the right word?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, pungent. It's good.
I like it. So we've got 3 games to go through. We tied Miami 2-2.
Well,
first.
Yeah. What is going on with our sponsor?
Oh, well, I'm going to get there. Well, first off, let's
start there.
We can start with the wine and go wine sponsor. And let me pull
Wolf Mountain Vineyards. For those who are not, we'll be up there in a few weeks because I'm going up there to get my juice for blending. You're going to come? Yeah.
What day are you going up there?
It's like just before the weekend, just before Halloween, I think.
If it's the 3rd week, I might be able to do that. Tell us what you're doing with you're blending some of Wolf Mountain's juices with your Norton grapes, just as a fun little project. And
I think it's going to be the 26th. We'll be up there.
Awesome.
I don't know whether we're going to podcast or not. We'll probably just stop in, have some wine, collect some juice.
Yeah, but talk about a great spot to go over these coming weekends.
Oh, yeah.
The leaves changing. Get up to Wolf Mountain Vineyards.
Yeah.
Have a glass of wine. You will be absolutely shocked.
If you're going to be there, send us a message over social media. We'll say hi. Maybe we'll bring you some free paraphernalia.
So thank you, Wolf Mountain Vineyards, and thank you, Wild Heaven Brewery. Now, a second ago, before we went live, Dave is like, when are they going to open the new place in Toco Hills?
It's not like I drive by there stalking them weekly or anything.
But I spoke
maybe I do.
I spoke to Hayden over the weekend, and it will be opening in late October.
They put a sign up.
Yeah,
so that's encouraging.
So date is coming. I don't have a date for you, but I think if
knowing our luck, it's going to be the weekend that we're going to be up at Wolf Mountain Vineyard.
Yeah.
We're going to miss it. Grand opening. Even though I've had my tent out there the entire time.
But it's going to happen in October. So we're less than 30 days.
You know Shasheskyville, where they wait out for tickets for Duke, right? They put out tents. That's me, but it's just me.
Okay.
Because there's no one else sitting out there.
Barbecue.
No, I'm kidding, people.
Barbecue.
Fox Brothers in Wild Heaven is worth pitching a tent on.
And so if everybody doesn't know where the new location is, Dave, can you kind of give a little bit of orientation to
Toco Hills, which is the corner of La Vista and Druid Hills, and it's in the middle of the shopping center. It's kind of tucked away a little bit in its own cute little nook. It has a little courtyard.
It used to be a French restaurant in that spot,
right? It was a very La Hieres or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, but it was a French restaurant. Maybe that was a different one.
And Roasters is right around the corner, and then Pipe Nurseries is farther in the corner
I think
around.
the Roasters is long gone.
I know. I went by there the other day. It looked like it was closing down.
Oh.
Yeah. It looked either that.
But there's a bunch of new stuff there, in Tocqueville Hills, a bunch of good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, but nothing better than the Fox Brothers Wild Heaven.
So get there late October. We'll share a date as soon as I can. I'll try to bribe Hayden for that as soon as we can share with the listeners. Now, Dave, we got 3 games to go through. All are draws. Probably the most exciting one to talk about is the Messi show that we got to see with at least, 35 minutes of Messi coming on, and Atlanta United actually playing some exciting soccer in the second half. The Benz felt like it was.
I got something to say about that, but we can start with go through the game first if you want.
Yeah, we will talk about that game. We will talk also about the Red Bulls 2-2 tie up in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I think goals by Marinchuk and Saba in that one. And then we went up to Philadelphia Union and drew 1-1 in Chester County in Pennsylvania. So we got that. And we've got Montreal.
Does that get us
tomorrow night at Mercedes-Benz, which I think is do or die. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't really.
We had Garth Lagerway on the phone call tonight with the supporters.
Okay, yeah, you listened in a little bit on that.
I did.
No lack of nuggets. And rumors that, like we mentioned about potential coaches. We've got Twitter conversations of our opinions on that and other choices and expectations.
How long are we going to be here?
We're going to have to go in festival. Let's just skip the games because they were all draws. We don't want to talk about kissing your sister. Isn't that what draws are like?
Well,
isn't that what they say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of boring. I don't have a sister to kiss, so I don't know. Like smooch on the cheek. So the draw against Miami, it sounds like you are not as hyped about our play in the last 30 minutes, 20 minutes.
No.
Okay.
There's all this stuff about finally Atlanta United showed heart, right? And they finally showed spirit and they finally, played with intensity. That's BS.
Okay.
It's a bunch of hooey. So what happened in that game? Right? In the last 30 minutes, they brought on Messi. They brought on Suarez. They brought on a Tecker, right? They totally got rid of their midfield. God bless Tata, right? And their team looked like they were pretty tired, particularly in the back. Yeah. And it became the most open game you've ever seen, right? There was nobody in the midfield. So you want to know why Atlanta United sucks? It's because we can't get forward offensively, which we're going to go over tactically, and we can't stop people defensively in the middle of the field. But if the other team abandons the center of the midfield, you know what we finally do? We look good.
Yeah. So you think that Tata put his cards down and put on a little bit of a Messi star show for the MLS? Is that what you're kind of concluding? Because that would be the only,
I think, if you had to say, so there's two things. One is that Tata had no respect for us and was like, look, it doesn't matter. And he's just going to put those guys off and, whatever, put those guys on and whatever. Or the other possibility is he thought, okay, even if it becomes really wide open or whatever, we go up and down. Our up and down is going to do better than their up and down.
And to be fair, the 2 times Messi dribbled in the box, it was a miracle.
We could have given up 5 goals.
The one
it
went off somebody's back accidentally when they shot it point blank on goal. Like it really was pretty dicey there. Yeah. So as he gambled, like if you look back on it, like there was a lot of sun shining on dogs' asses.
But it is shocking to me how many Atlanta United fans are looking like, wow, we finally played with intensity. No, we finally got to the point where it didn't matter what our coaching was. Right. All they did was abandon the entire midfield. And so we were able to get out of the back and get forward at them. And then we have actually some attacking talent when we do that, when it's wide open in the middle. Right. But it was probably the worst 20 minutes of soccer I've seen in MLS in a long time.
On our half or just in
both?
In Miami,
because both teams tactically just abandoned everything. And it looked like, when it looked like a 7-7 Silverbacks game when you just go up and down and nobody gives a damn tactically about anything.
Well, I'll tell you what, fans will take the Youth 7 soccer because it was a hell of a lot more entertaining than any other game.
It was very entertaining.
Right. So
it was super entertaining. It was great soccer to watch.
Yeah.
I mean,
Isn't that all we want?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it was horrible soccer. Like,
goal scoring chances, horrible soccer.
No, I don't mean like
we did get stuck in a couple times against Messi too. I mean,
I just mean that like
just playing a little devil's advocate.
Really, a professional team. You see it every once in a while in the Premier League at the end of the game when people are really exhausted. Sometimes you see it in like overtime, where the teams are just so exhausted and it just becomes
all discipline. And spatial.
No discipline, spatial. Yeah. There's no team techniques or whatever. You typically don't see it in a 90-minute game.
So what did you see in terms of like our defensive formation when they brought on Messi and Suarez and some of the stars?
Well, here's the ultimate irony. I mean, the ultimate horrible irony. Right. So we started that game with 3 defensive midfielders. Right. And I go back to my notes. But so we started the game. We played 3 defensive midfielders. Dax, Muyumba, and Sleaze all played. OK, the only reason to do that at home. Right. The only reason to do that at home is because that's the space that Messi likes to drop into, and you can't defend it. Our backs are never good enough to drop in with Messi, win the ball. So you need a ton of defensive midfielders, especially because our midfield sucks, right? So we had that on the entire game, okay? And we brought it off right as they brought on Messi.
Right when we needed it.
Yeah. Like, really? Like tactically, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Valentino didn't know that Messi wasn't going to start or whatever. But at home, there's no reason to play 3 defensive midfielders, right? Even against first. And now you maybe say, look, we feel so inferior. I mean, that's what Valentino is saying with that lineup. We feel so inferior to Miami, even at home. We got to play with 3 defensive.
Now, what are the rules once you post your starting line? What are the rules in the MLS, right? Because they usually post starting lineup anywhere like 45 minutes before the game starts, and then you obviously get to see what Miami's starting lineup is. What are the rules on changing based on that?
I only know the rules in the Premier League, and I don't know the rules in MLS.
What are the rules in the
Typically in the Premier League, once you've posted they post all the lineups at the same time, like the clubs don't post them or whatever, I think. But anyway, as soon as you post that, it's like a certain amount of time, like 90 minutes before kickoff or whatever. As soon as you post that, you are locked into that lineup, barring an injury.
Right. So
you can actually
somebody gets injured during warm up. Which they're not going to be able to play at that point.
Right.
So that totally is a big gamble. All right. So, but you could still be in a position where you switch your formation based on whatever the starting lineup is.
Sure. And most people kind of knew that Messi wasn't going to start, but I don't know. I mean, it was a terrible lineup if you're not playing against Messi, and then you needed it when you had Messi come on, which is when he got rid of it.
Yeah. Now, I will say the tying goal from Marinchuk was a worldie.
Oh my goodness!
What a absolute smoking goal that was. I mean, left-footed,
he's left-footed, curled
upper 90 side netting. I mean, it's a pretty nice way to walk out of the Benz.
Yeah, and I thought
feeling like a tie's a win. That's about as good as.
And Saba, Messi could have scored. They could have scored 3 goals.
We could have scored a couple.
But Saba actually twice looked like he wanted. He had a deflected shot that went into the post, and then he had one where he bent it. I don't know. It couldn't have been more than 6 inches beyond the far post.
Right.
Yeah. So the other thing I'll say is that Sleaze in a defensive midfielder looked terrible.
Yeah. He hasn't been looking good for a little while now.
Not
as good as he did when we first acquired.
When they finally got rid of everybody else and he had the free run, which I think I'll get to, he looked terrific. Yeah. Absolutely terrific. But he clearly doesn't really, because I think he reads it and goes after the thing. And when you rein him in and you say you got to be double pivot or in a trio, a triple pivot,
then
it looks like you put him in a
a little bit too much restraint on being able to just read the game and play from his.
Yeah. You know how they say nobody puts baby in a corner?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. We put baby in a corner.
Patrick Swayze does.
Yeah. And the one thing I'll say is at the end, when it got really, really open and it was really entertaining, the crowd was super into it with Messi on the field and whatever. And it just shows you that if we can get back to playing well.
That was actually my biggest takeaway from the whole Miami game is I remember why I started a podcast about Atlanta United. Kept walking out of that game. I'm like, that is why we should not lower the standard of what the club can be, because we do have the facility. We got the best stadium in the U.S., potentially one of the top 5 in the world. And, you know, when the soccer is exciting, it may not be good, Dave. May not be good soccer, but when the soccer is exciting, your mainstream fans are going to show up, cheer, and support the team, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And you know,
we probably deserved to win too. Their goal was pretty lucky. It deflected off of the free kick that deflected off of McCarty's backside and just wrong-footed Guzan. That was pretty damn lucky goal. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So in the later stages, I should point out that they brought on Messi, they brought on Suarez, they brought on Redondo, and they brought on Jordi Alba. Right? All of who went forward and just abandoned in the middle.
I also want to point out, just for all the people that I've just been the last year and a half arguing with, there's no way that Messi is not going to play Mercedes-Benz just because it's turf. Yeah. So for all you people, like, what do you have to say now? Like, I've been saying this shit for the longest time. That's the most ridiculous stance ever. And Messi even got interviewed on it. I think it's the bottom right, Dave. You know,
he's
heating up. We need my support on where the buttons are without Carmen here.
I was trying to decide which.
But come on.
Sorry.
The whole reason the MLS is invested in Messi is so that he can show up and play at stadiums.
And he said right from the beginning that Barcelona trains on turf.
Yeah.
He's like,
it's like, there's no problem with it.
Come on now.
These fools. Look, I think we all agree. It's like, for people who played, like, it's more pleasurable to play on a really nice grass soccer field. I'm with you there.
You know what Messi got hurt on in the Copa America final?
Yeah.
It was a grass
of course.
field.
Yeah. Well, and also my argument, knock on wood, I've been playing on turf for the last 25 years. I'm the biggest candidate for a heart attack and a knee injury out there. And I've not had one yet. Knock on wood.
Don't sell yourself short. There's still time.
One of those is coming sooner than later. All right.
All right, let's go. I want to go to tactical board because I want to talk about what is absolutely atrocious. And you could just see it. You can see it in all 3 games, but in the Miami game, it was particularly egregious. All right, here we go.
There you go. Take that over without spilling wine.
That's a little too aggressive, people. All right. So I'm going to move it over here. So what I want to say is, like, so if there's ever a moment where you should be tactically, defensively ready to go, is when they're trying to sort of build out of the back. And in the case, what I want to talk about, Miami was actually building. They had played it around the whole back and forth or whatever. Atlanta United was everybody was in their spots. Okay. And so what happened was, I'm just going to move. Well, Silva wasn't playing, but it was at this point. It doesn't matter. But
McCarty's there, 13.
Yeah, I'm scared, whatever. It doesn't matter. But it was Saba. Saba was actually playing on the left. And so Saba, actually, as I've watched him a little bit more, is pretty terrible defensively. I mean, he works hard, but he's not so good at defensively. But anyway, doesn't matter. So they were actually playing the ball out of the back, Mikey Dobbs. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to move everybody up so we can see how it is. So they, had shifted the ball around the back and they played it side to side. They're 2 center backs. They did a lot of this or whatever. Anyway, and then they played it out to their right back. Okay.
So Saba's the first person in front.
Yeah. So we had, what looks like, a perfect formation. So first of all, Saba works really hard to get to, and our field is a little small, but
Don't blame it on tactical board.
Anyway, it looks like it's not as far. But anyway, so what happened was, so they were playing out of the back, and Saba gets back and plays this sort of zone in the middle, okay? And Williams is over here, and Amador is over here because they have another guy, whatever. So we're like this. Okay, so the right back, for those of you who are not watching on the YouTube channel, the right back has the ball, and it was Gressel who was literally standing wide open right on the touchline, okay? And so what we did, like 6 times in a row as they were building out of the back, their right back just dribbled a little bit up, okay? As soon as he did that, Saba went over, right? And Amador so Williams was sort of over in the middle, and was showing no hint of helping, right? And so Amador was here, and he couldn't go out here because there was a guy in the middle, and Williams wouldn't come over. Williams just stood there next to Gregerson the whole time, right? So what we were doing was literally he would dribble up, Saba would go up, and then he would play to Gressel here, okay? Who Gressel Gressel could have trapped the ball, had a cup of tea, maybe waited in a line at Starbucks, right? So as soon as that happens, now Amador comes out like this, but literally Gressel's watching him the whole way, right? So he has plenty of time. And as soon as he did that, they had all of this acres of space, and the guy just made a run in, and they played here right in behind. Right. At which point Williams was like, oh, man, I got to, whatever. They just went right up the field with nobody coming close to anything.
So, but what you just described there has been our problem that we've talked about for 2 years.
Yeah, but it's even worse because,
you're kind of, though, blaming it on Williams is what I'm hearing in your description of pinching in.
No, I'm blaming it on the coach because so the bottom line.
But that is Amador being told to not go out to Gressel or not closing.
I don't know what it's being told, but my point is that there's no matchup out of it. Okay, so even when the right back, let's give the ball back to the right back, even when the right back has the ball, and you would think, okay, and they've passed it around. This is not a transition moment where we got caught, right? This is an actual moment here, right? So if they're going to do this, right, we have to be able to match up. We cannot allow a guy to play to a wide open.
But so this goes back to the whole pinching in thing, though. So either our coach is telling Saba has to cover that and put pressure on Gressel, or Amador does.
Yeah,
it's got to be one of the two, right?
It's got to be one of the two, right? So and here's the worst part about it, Mikey Dobbs. So here's the problem. So Saba's right here. He's doing nothing to help us defensively. He's worked all the way back here, right? So let's say that, Gressel's the worst player in the world.
Nothing has changed. Rob Valentino's in charge. Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
You have not said the word, which is called pinching in. I'm surprised you haven't, because that's what you're describing. And you're saying that it's coaching, and that's the same coaching of not addressing who's the master at it, who's the master for us is being out wide. You give that guy space. He's either going to cross it early or he's going to do exactly what you described there. Look up and play it behind.
I think I'm just slightly changing language. It is because they're not quite as always pinched in now as they were with like Pineda. It looked like Amador had to, or when it wasn't Amador, but he had to, whatever. But the bottom line is it's still the same, which is we fail to match up. And what I mean by match up is when everybody is back, you got to be able to actually match up and stop people from going forward. You cannot allow people to pass under no pressure without anybody having any possibility of getting a tackle in. And here's the kicker, right? Here's the absolute kicker. If you were doing this for some awesome offensive thing, right? So if you said to Saba, okay, I want you to go here, right? And you wait out here.
Yeah, I love
okay. That. And now, okay, we're going to give this up. And Amador is going to come out here. But if he makes a mistake here and he hits it into Amador, boom, we're gone.
You're playing chess, not checkers.
Right. But we're not doing that because Saba's working all the way back here and coming nowhere close to helping us get the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awful. They did it even out of a freaking throw-in on this game. They had a throw-in down here, right? They had a throw-in back here, and Saba was here, and Amador was, with this guy, right? And they had a throw-in, right? And he threw it back to the right back here, right? And you would think it's a throw in an RN, it's all compact or whatever. And this guy there's probably a little bit in here, fighting in here. Saba went here, and they just went right back and said, "Okay, Gressel, you can cross the ball." And they, I can't remember what was the goal we gave up. I think we didn't. It was an amazing save by Guzan.
Yeah,
but you're like, they threw it to the wide open right back. We just ran like an idiot. Mm-hmm. He passed it right back to the open guy, and he just had a chance to put it on a tee and serve it. Like, how is that tactically anything?
Yeah,
it's absolute madness. It is absolute freaking madness. The fact that when we have a full team back, we still give them the opportunity to pass the ball to the open guy without any pressure and break us down. Nobody's getting broken down here. There's no fantastic line splitting ball. There's nobody making a run. There's nobody turning anybody. And they're still just going right up the field. That is, I want to freaking blow my mind. I've watched this in youth soccer sometimes, and I'm like screaming my bloody head off. I'm like, what in the world is the coach doing? Even when I watch it in a youth soccer team. But for a professional team, not caught in a transition, not doing it for some tactically genius way where we're going to be like, okay, we're going to gamble because we're going to give it up.
Yeah.
Right. So you're absolutely right. One of two things has to happen. Right. So either, right, you have to say Saba has got to come and be really out
here. Which we've already decided would be terribly tactical too, because Saba he's not a good defender, right?
No.
So that's a terrible idea. Yeah. Okay, so there's only one idea. So the only one idea is that our fullbacks need to be playing like true fullbacks and create pressure, which is make them play the ball back, make a tackle or interception, right?
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that, so all you have to do is Amador has to be out here when it's ball side, right? Because they were literally ball side here, right? So Amador has to be, when it's ball side, he has to be really close. And so if he plays it here, okay, then Amador is right on him.
Yeah, he can't play behind.
And they force him to either beat him one-on-one, right, trap it under pressure or play back, right? And nothing happens. And even if we're just absolutely shambolic in the middle, there's like a guy wide open or whatever, as long as he doesn't have a chance to get his head up and pick out a run, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, when you do that, what should happen is that this guy who's running across, Williams has to actually take him, and Gregerson has to become directly in the center. And you're like, okay, what about that? Well, Lennon has got to be aware, right? And if the guy makes a run out of the midfield, which you're vulnerable to, right, then you got to have your defensive midfielder to actually pick that up.
Yeah.
And occasionally, right, they're going to get beat, right? So this guy's going to make a run, and he's going to be in between Gregerson and Sleaze, right? Maybe open, like if they make a good cross. But you know what's not going to happen? We're not going to give up a goal because nobody has a free cross.
Yeah, it's 1v1.
Nobody has a free cross because you've matched up and you've made it difficult and you can actually win the ball.
Yep.
I mean, it is.
But I mean, again, it doesn't fundamentally change what we've been saying, which is like our fullbacks. And I will say, you've maybe said a few good things about Amador's defense. I don't know if you that's changed over the last couple of games. We don't think Lennon is very good at that accountability. Like we've seen him get smoked on the sidelines when he does go out there early. So that he is a risk out there, but he's enough of an athlete where if he gets the memo on how to do it, right, he should be able to.
I'm starting to become a bigger fan of Amador. We could talk into a minute, but I want to go right now to the goal that we gave up to the Philadelphia Union, right?
The Union
in the 60th minute. Right. Yeah. So if you can move that on so the folks at home can see it, and then I can take control again.
There you go.
Okay.
Let's go full screen for you.
All right. So here is a perfect case. So Philadelphia is literally building out of the back, right? You can tell that because Andre Blake is like halfway up the field, right? And they've played it to their center back. We got everybody behind the ball, right? So we should be.
Is that their last man back who's got the ball in the top of the circle? Yeah. So they're not building out of the back.
They're recycling it.
Yeah, they're recycling from the keeper to the center defensive midfielder. He's got it basically at midfield, right on the halfway.
But we have everybody back.
Yeah,
if there's ever a moment that it should be difficult to break down a team, it's when everybody is back, right? And I want you to see what happens here. So we hit play, okay, and he's gonna loft a chip, okay, from midfield. I mean, it's an aimless ball.
2, 3, a ball that was in there, 3 seconds or more,
right? And it's not one, it's two. There are two open players.
That could have bounced and gone to the second guy as well.
Yeah, there are two open players. How in the world is Lennon not up here? And how in the world, I think it's Sleaze in this case, we have three defensive midfield in this game? Maybe not. No, this is only two. But we still have two defensive midfielders, right? And it is wide open.
Yeah, I think that's Sleaze, Fortune, and Marinchuk now that are the three in the center there.
Yeah. So this is Rios, I think.
Yeah.
Right? This must be Marinchuk, and this is Saba.
Marinchuk, I believe, is right by the ref. He's a bigger guy.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Marinchuk's up. So this might be like when Tyler Wolf came on.
Yeah, maybe
it's Tyler Wolf right over here. But anyway, everybody back, right? And he's allowed to loft the ball. And so what I'm talking about matching up, Mikey Dobbs, is I'm talking about when their center back has the ball and we're trying to pressure at it, you should never, ever, 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 ever be able to play a soft, chipped 35-yard ball or whatever that was and have the guy have all day to bring the ball down it's basically in the attacking third. Yeah. This is not he didn't play a magnificent split the line ball. He just chipped a ball and they were not one, but two players open. Our matching up is absolute garbage. It's garbage. We don't have anybody marked up in these moments at all.
Yeah. Are you going to get in there and fix this team, Dave? Are you going to get in there and fix it?
He's on fire!
Logaway, he doesn't have MLS experience.
And it's coaching. It is absolute coaching. You have to have a way. You have to say, look, when we're all the way back, we know what Philadelphia likes to do. We know where they are. And these are the assignments that we're going to have. And you need to be up on them, making it hard. That was not hard.
Not only is it not hard for that pass, right? Like this is now after he has had all day to settle the ball. He's turning and, Brooks Lennon's already running backwards and everybody's chasing. So again,
Brooks Lennon, when I paused it, he's at least 15 yards off the ball.
Yeah.
There was a 35-yard diagonal ball played over the top, right, into space, and he is 15 yards away from the ball.
Yeah.
That is horrible.
It's
one thing if you get caught in a transition moment. That is not a transition moment. The other ones have not been a transition moment. And I am seeing this. I could show this to you. I've written it down. You want to see when we did it, like, in the Miami game, maybe it was I was writing it down in the Red Bull game. Yeah. It was just over and over again and again and again and again and again. So now,
you're going to continue playing this? All right.
Yeah, I got to play it because I want you to see what happens, right? So once you give that up, right, now Sleaze is going to try to work back, right? But still Lennon is not matched up, right? So Sleaze actually gets back to prevent that whatever. And Lennon is still backing up.
Yeah.
Why?
Right. He should definitely be a yard or two out wide. And then that's the difference at the end of the day is he's not able to close it and put it in.
No, he doesn't.
It's called a yard, at least one more yard, right?
And so he plays it, right? Lennon comes up to address it. By that time, he's had time to pick up his head and he picks out this really good ball to the top of the box. Who got beat on this play?
Lennon and Sleaze.
No, I'm going to argue nobody did.
Well,
nobody got dribbled around. Nobody got run.
I'm talking about they got beat about 5 seconds ago.
Because they were stupid in their positioning, right?
Yeah.
So then they play to the top of the box. He's wide open, right?
Yeah. But, and the second part of the play, nobody got beat.
And you can't...
Other than Lennon. Lennon definitely got beat in the first and second ball because he didn't close any space down.
you can't see it, but we have 11 guys back at the start of this play, right? Their center back has the ball. He's just gotten it, I think, from Andre Blake. And we have 11 guys back. He'll play it again. He plays a lofted ball over the top, trap,
easy ball out
dribble,
wide,
pass,
easy
pass in the middle, shot and score, right? And nobody comes close to. There's nobody can come close to getting a tackle in.
Yeah.
Right. That is like Civ football. like go, go. There's nobody making any, and people, in the Atlanta United players are looking and like, who's going to market whatever. And there are going to be moments in any system where a guy wriggles free in the box or gets loose at the top of the box. The reason why you're supposed to not give up goals every time is because you're supposed to actually challenge when they try to play the ball forward. You know how coaches talk about these days, like, we worked so hard on splitting the lines and figuring out whatever. You're playing against Atlanta United. You're like, okay, boys, today we don't have to practice splitting the lines because they're just going to let us play there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's shambolic. Yeah. It's terrible. It's awful. It's woeful. It's horrible.
Hey, Gressel will be wide open on the right. Saba is going to come and pressure you. Just play it out wide, and then
for those of you who played soccer out there, everybody's always played with the square drill where there's 3 attackers and only 1 defender, and you just move to the open cone. And if you do it right, the defender can't ever get close to the ball. Right? You just pass it, and you move to the open, whatever. That's all people do against us. Yeah. It's just the open guy. I'll pass the open guy, and then we could go shut him down. And then there's another open guy. We go shut him down. There's another open guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, somebody has got to actually play defense and try to stop the opponent. It is horrible. Horrible. I don't know how you could watch this tactically as a coach and not just be embarrassed for yourself, because you're like, look, what are we doing? If I'm a coach, I'm like, what are we doing? Whatever our matchup is, no matter what the system, I don't care whether it's zone, it's man-to-man, it's 4 in the back, it's 5 in the back, it's 3 in the whatever. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, when you're all the way back as a team and they're attacking you, you have to have responsibilities where, like, I got that guy, you got that guy, and we're going to try to stop them from playing.
Yeah. Bingo, bango. All right. So anything more on the replay?
No. Right. No more replays.
All right.
So frustrating. And what, it's so interesting because, Pineda staked his whole career on this, right? About this overloading the whole side, right? He had the guy just like that. He had the overloaded. He had, Gressel out wide. He had the outside back. He had it overloaded. And it never worked because all the best teams did was they were like, okay, we assigned our outside back to picking up your overlapping winger. We know he's coming, right? Yeah. We know he's coming. And so they matched up with him that way. And as soon as you did that, we might have had an extra guy open in the middle, but it doesn't matter. Because they stopped us from actually going up the field.
Yeah, and instead of it being Araujo out on his natural left who would smoke by somebody, it was Brooks Lennon on the right who wasn't going to fly by anybody. They're like, okay, we'll take that. We'll move our pawn out there, put the pressure on. You're going to go back.
Yeah. So he spent his whole career on this, and all the opposing coaches were like, that's what you got? You're going to send the same guy forward all the time, and he's not even going to time it. He's just going to stand out there. We're like, okay, our outside back going to match up with him. Now what you got?
Yeah.
Now what you got? And then we would literally be looking at it. And if you looked at us, the number of times in this game where we had the ball, we were trying to break a Philadelphia team, right? And we tried to play it out of the back, and every single pass we had, somebody was marked up. You're like, that's actually a tactical system because it doesn't, then the players have got to make plays. But unless there's a system that says that, I got you got he, right? Like,
yeah,
awful. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about it.
All right. So do you want to move on to coaching rumors?
Sure.
Or coaching outlook, or who you think, now that, the year is winding down, any coaches that are gone, any that have come back onto your radar? We've talked about it on Twitter. I actually put a poll on our Twitter, which is interesting. There was probably 209 votes or something. It's pretty good voting on, would Patrick Vieira be a great coach, a better than average coach, a good coach, or a bad coach? And, I would say most people say he was going to be a good plus or better than average coach. And a lot of people thought he'd even be great. So overwhelmingly a positive poll, that
I got
at minimum he was going to be good, but very few people, I think it was only like 15% bad.
I got one question.
Yep.
Why does anybody think he's going to be good? So I'm a scientist, right?
Yeah.
This is my job, right?
Yep.
So we have had 4 different data points for Patrick Vieira,
Yep.
right? First data point is MLS, right? Where he had 2 good years for New York, right? Didn't exactly win the MLS title, didn't come close to winning the NFL title, but he finished, he got up, they moved up each year. I think the second year they finished like 4th or something, whatever. 2 good years, positive record, positive goal differential. So you would say, okay, good.
Yeah.
Second data point, right? He goes to Nice, right? They do terribly and they sack him. Okay. And they're like, oh, well, maybe he didn't get what he wanted or whatever. It wasn't blah, 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 blah. So then he gets hired by Crystal Palace, right? Does okay initially. Like, I think he avoided relegation initially, but then got a full off season, came in, whatever, and sucked it again.
Yeah.
They were in the relegation zone and they fired him.
Yeah.
Right.
And I did listen to an interview with him the other day talking about that second year at Palace. And it was interesting because he was talking about how the management above, and he said, that was that's some of the things he's learning experience is just the pressures that come from people above on the style of play that they want at Crystal Palace, and the types of players that they want to bring in, youth, or all the politics of that happen at these bigger clubs. And it's interesting because everybody finds an excuse, but his excuse, and it was Gary Neville and that crew that were like almost making the excuse for him, that like there was a next run of games that were like way easier on the schedule. Like the first half of that season was actually pretty difficult.
Yeah.
And you would expect that Palace wouldn't have done well, but then there was like this sense of 5 games that they probably should have done much better than they did. And that's why they fired him right at that spot, so that the new coach, coach would look good.
You know why that's a BS excuse?
Tell me.
I mean, it has nothing to do with that. Could be absolutely legitimate.
Yeah.
Could be the actual reason, right? May even likely be the reason. But here's the problem with it, right? Because then he goes to Strasbourg and fails there, right? So you cannot tell me that in all of those situations, Nice, Crystal Palace, Strasbourg, all of which he had a good run of games, right? Nice, he had multiple seasons. Crystal Palace, he had multiple seasons. Strasbourg, he had at least a full season, right? You can't tell me that in every single one of those cases, there was some problem that prohibited the great coach from succeeding.
What do you think about? I just don't know enough about those teams in terms of their talent.
You don't have to know anything.
Well, hold on. Yeah, you do, because if you're giving me a team that has relegation zone talent, and there is relegation zone talent on certain teams, and I become the coach. It's a tough hill to go up, even if you're a great coach, I think.
Sure.
So,
but in all 3 places,
I think it sounded like it a little bit. Yeah.
I don't buy it.
I don't think Strasbourg, Nice, and Crystal Palace they're not above the fold teams in any of those leagues.
I get it.
So they're below the fold. So
but nobody's asking him to win titles.
All I'm saying is against a headwind.
Sure. But 3 times,
and a pretty good headwind on most of those clubs.
So there's 2 possible hypotheses, right? Yeah. 2 possible explanations. So one is that, or maybe 3, right? One is that he's a great coach, okay, and he just had absolutely horrible situations in 3 different clubs over 6 years, right?
Yeah.
2,
but doesn't
wait, hold on.
Let me ask you. But doesn't that happen with coaches who are trying to get a job at legitimate European clubs? You kind of have to take that risk a little bit to even get a job.
No, because the really good coaches. So if you go to Nice and you're a really, really good coach, or you go to Strasbourg and you're a really, really good coach, I'm not saying you suddenly win the title. But what you do, if you're a really, really good coach, is you play a little bit over your head. If you're a relegation kind of team, you suddenly finish mid-table consistently or whatever good. Or if you're a mid-table team, you actually surprisingly contend and finish third or whatever, right? You play above your station. And in all three cases, he played at best exactly what the station there was. And if you're a great coach, that doesn't happen. You play better than the team, right?
That's
so
fair.
So the other possibility is that he's a okay coach, and the MLS is such a bad league that you only have to be an okay coach to do well.
Yeah.
Right. So that he did really well at New York City FC, and he would do well at any other MLS team because it's such a bad league. He's a decent above average coach, and that's all you need to be awesome in MLS. I don't buy that. I think that's bullshit. Right. Or the third possibility, okay, is that the outlier in the data is the 2 years that he did okay with New York City FC, and the coach who he is the terrible 3 performances at the other 3 clubs. Okay. Now, I'm not willing to say that I'm 100% sure.
His first season at NYCFC, didn't he finish like bottom half of the table?
It wasn't great.
So
they made the playoffs.
Oh, they did make the playoffs.
But everybody makes playoffs.
11th place is playoffs?
No, I think they were better than that.
I thought the second season is when they made the playoffs.
I have to look. I can't
fourth
remember.
Or something like that.
But anyway, it wasn't. You're right that even his first season wasn't amazing, right? And his second season, when he did so much better, it wasn't like they were like within a whisker of winning the title.
Right.
They were just a good side.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not even that positive a data point
on a home field, which is just statistically the biggest advantage of any home field in MLS.
Right.
Yankee Stadium.
So if you show me that data, what I think is the outlier is the New York City FC, that he did a little bit better than New York City FC than it probably is as a coach. And he's probably a pretty lousy coach or at best decent.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all he's going to be. He has no chance based on that record, I think, of coming close to winning an MLS title.
So, yeah.
Now you could potentially say, you can make an argument that Atlanta United has such a big draw and such a big, so many resources salary wise. We're going to have the best team, and you just need a decent coach in order to win. Obviously, the last coaches that we've had kind of argue otherwise. But you could say, look, Pineda had a really, really good team, and he was just a totally horrible coach and underperformed.
That was it. That's what happened.
I can buy that, completely.
Yep.
But I don't buy the argument that we are going to have so much talent on the field that you can be just a mediocre coach and you're going to win MLS. No. I just don't buy it. So at best, he's a mediocre coach or a decent, I'm not disagreeing with all these people who say that he could be a goodish coach, but that's not going to get it done.
No.
Right?
It's not going to get done. So now I agree. So I'm just playing devil's advocate to try to call it some points. And also, I'm curious, a coach like Patrick Vieira, who's at best probably good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I think.
He's like, he's
either good or mediocre.
He's mediocre or good, right?
Yep.
And that probably is true based on
probably not terrible.
Yeah. Probably not Pineda.
No, I doubt he's Pineda. It's really hard to be Pineda.
But so I'm curious, and your analysis of coaches that land in that bucket, what is it that is their fundamental flaw most of the time? What is it that they're not learning to progress to figure out how to punch above their weight?
I feel like there's 2 kinds of coaches. There is a very small percentage of coaches who can really, really coach, meaning that they can identify talent, they can keep a team happy, and they can come up with some kind of tactical system that maximizes their talent, and they could kind of win anywhere. I'm not saying that you're going to take the worst squad in the world and win. These are the Klopps, the Guardiolas. They're few and far between. They're very rare. Okay, very few coaches. In MLS, maybe there've been a few in the whole history of MLS, like Bruce Arena, maybe. And you would say like currently probably like a Wilfred Nancy seems to be able to do well anywhere. He took a Montreal side that was terrible and finished second with them, right? Before going to Columbus and winning the title.
Yeah.
So he looks like he could be that coach, but they're few and far between. They're very rare. Okay. Then there are coaches who are good coaches. They can keep the locker room. They have something tactically. Often they have like a style that they like to play, which a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
And occasionally they get a team that really, really fits that style, right? And then they excel for a little bit, maybe even can win a title, right? But mostly they're never going to sustain. You're never going to, because eventually, you're going to, so like what happened with us, right? You win a title in MLS. It's a salary cap league. You're never going to have the best talent the next year, right? So you really earn your stripes the next year because you got to start coaching some players after you lose Al Marone and after you lose whatever, right? So those coaches can't sustain it because the moment they don't have the perfect team that fits their system and the moment they don't have the best team, and you've seen it. There have been coaches.
So did you just
over and over?
Did you just give DeBoer a little bit of props for 2019 then? Given all the changes we had to make going into that year,
I think
Todd just sails away.
To be honest, I think DeBoer had a pretty excellent, well above average MLS side that year. They had come out of that first horribleness, right, when they had terrible players, and they had a little better side. But yeah, I give him credit. I think, to be honest with you, I think DeBoer is probably an above average coach. But again, and if you look at DeBoer, right, he had 6 seasons at Ajax where they were like title every year and amazing, right? And what I would say about DeBoer is that's a situation where he had access to the best talent and he had players that truly fit his system, and he was able to coach it.
So there's your second style of coach.
He's the second style of coach. Yeah. He's not a coach you can just put in anywhere and he can win anywhere, but he's a good coach.
Now, as you and I have said, we're going to be obviously very skeptical of Patrick Vieira breaking the data and the stats that are basically saying he's an average coach. Maybe he could be a better than average coach. Maybe he could get to a DeBoer status, but that's kind of almost like his ceiling is where it's feeling right now.
Yep.
So if that be true, and people may disagree with us, but just stick with me, people. If that is true,
and I just want to interrupt you for 1 second to say that when I had a lot of arguments with people on Twitter who were defending him and who were on the people who clearly voted for the poll like that, and they were pushing for a great. When I pushed him on it, I said, make an argument for why he's great. They kind of came back and said, well, here's an argument where he's might be good, right? And they said that's the best we can do. Yeah. They weren't really arguing that he was one of the great coaches.
Exactly. You've set me up for where, the whole point of that poll was we are settling for good. And this club has basically landed pretty much near rock bottom right now with, what may have been good in Pineda, but was obviously less than good. Why would we not be patient right now and punch above our weight with a checkbook that can be aggressive? And again, this is where I went off. If you go back to the June podcast, listeners, when we announced the departure of Pineda, and I was very upset that we didn't have somebody kind of already teased out on who the next coach. Like, we have a plan. We are hopefully going to announce something in the next week or so, because I feel like, Garth should have been on a plane 2 weeks before that. He certainly should have been on a plane over the summer. And everybody argued with me on Twitter, but it is absolutely clear. And absolutely, people, of course, we have a list. We have a list of prospects that may be ambitious, but you are never going to get an Allegri or a Pochettino or a Tuchel. And you may not like any of those names or think that they're realistic, but unless you actually say, okay, I'm going to put a real game plan around like convincing them on why they should come to Atlanta United for 2 seasons, have a 2-season sell on moving your family and target the right ones. There has to be, if I'm on a whiteboard, 6 names that you could have made it worth Lagerwey's time getting on a private jet, flying over to Europe, and at least talking to 2 of them. And then when you come back and be like, hey, no, I flew to Europe, I tried to, be aggressive. Like, you don't even have to say names.
In his press conference, he did today or whatever his phone calls, he was taking questions. He did say that it's been a full search, including
it hasn't.
Europe,
it hasn't been a full search, Dave. It has not. That's a lie. If it was a full search, is there any evidence that he's talked to any of these names? You mean to tell me the European soccer gossip circles aren't going to say that someone from Atlanta United reached out to Allegri and they tried to have a meeting at breakfast? Like, that's what they live for over there. It was the paparazzi of soccer. Come on. And if he was going about it the correct way, like I said, then you should try to meet with them in person.
Yep. I agree with you. I think what happened was he honestly thought that potentially Rob Valentino was the answer, right? And I would have said, no way Rob Valentino can be the answer, because I am not handing the keys to this, Mercedes, if you will, to somebody who doesn't have a track record coaching and winning, right, over long. And people say, oh, he was an interim stint, he did okay in that. But that's not a record, right? I'm like talking about being a true, not an interim head coach, being a real head coach over multiple seasons, at least 2, hopefully 3, right, with winning record. Now, the only one we got like that was De Boer, right, who had 6. And he had a couple of crazy things where he got fired in between that were a little bit red flags, right? And I think, with De Boer in those cases, why did he struggle there? There were clearly some owners who were like crazy. But the other part about it is, De Boer was that coach when he had the time to work with and instill his system and whatever, and had the exact right players for it, he could probably win. But he wasn't the kind of coach who was good enough to be elite, to be like, okay, look, this is what I have. And at least until I get what I want and whatever I'm going to build, I can build it. I can make this team better tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, the thing that belies, and I agree with you, the whole idea that we had a search is that he said things, even the fact that Valentino is now being interviewed. And you might say, oh, well, that's a token because they're being nice to the guy, sure, whatever.
Why should they?
I don't buy it.
Why should they even be nice to him right now? They should have fired him at this point.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's that is.
If you're watching the soccer, it has his results been better than Pineda? Probably a little bit, because Pineda, honestly, I think in retrospect, I think he was clearly making the team worse than our talent.
Yeah.
Okay. Valentino seems to be making the team a little bit closer to our talent. He's still doing some horrible things that are not allowing us to play above our weight. Like we just pointed out, like the fact that we let people up the field so easily. If we didn't do that, should we have been in the playoff spot? Yes.
But he is no solution to MLS Cup.
No.
And again, against this full search, has Lagerwey, do you think, talked to any of the top Liga MX coaches, any coaches and other coaches in Argentina? I don't know. You live and breathe this world. Your son live and breathe this world in terms of like knowing all the available options out there. But there's got to be a list. And from any sort of trades that I've read, it's pretty pasty in terms of what we're hearing, that we happen to get the one guy who seems to be reached out to us in Patrick Vieira, who is struggling with his future as a head soccer coach because his results have not been good at Crystal Palace and now, Strasbourg. Right?
And I think it should be a global search. Like, for example, the Tottenham coach, Postaglu, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but whatever it is, he's Australian, right? So Rangers, where he coached before in Scotland, right? They picked him out of the Australian League, where he had won the title going away like 4 times in a row or whatever, 5 times in a row, right? And he won the title multiple times at Rangers, right? Immediately, he walked in and won the title every year. Now, Rangers, whatever, but they had been in a situation, I believe, where Celtic had won a few years in a row. But anyway, my point about that is not him. My point about that is you should be looking globally.
Yeah.
I don't care whether it's a Chilean league, whether it's Australian league, whether it's Austria, whether it's,
And I don't get his Lagerwey's prioritization so much on not being a proven head coach globally over a coach, as he said it, who either understands the MLS or understands a capped league and how that may pigeonhole that coach for the talent that he can get. Who cares? Lagerwey's already said, like, your job as the coach is to coach the team on the field. Our technical director and GM are going to pick the talent, and you, Dave, if you're the coach, are going to have to coach them into winning. So why the hell does it matter why that he doesn't need to know TAM or GAM?
No. And
it's the stupidest. Why didn't anybody ask? Did anybody ask him that question in the thing?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. But what I was going to say is during the questions, he talked about how what he has done and what they have done is set the club up to maximize success going forward. We have a ton of cap space. We have 2 designated players. We have an under 23. Talked all about this. And I think that's awesome. I really do. And he also talked about one thing that I think is positive, which is he said they had a chance after Miranchuk to potentially pull the trigger on another designated player. And I think it didn't work out. They went after somebody, but they were like, we're not going to go after all these people because we don't know who the coach is. And what he said is we were only going to sign a designated player if we were sure it would kind of fit anybody's system. And he argued, right or wrong, Miranchuk was that guy, which is why they pulled the trigger on him. They felt like he was very flexible and could fit in a bunch of coaches' systems, and that's why they wanted him. So I like the fact that they were holding off and realizing that, you got to know who the coach is before you make the call on that.
I don't mind that, but how he let 2024 just drift away is already a gigantic fail in Garth Lagerwey's legacy.
Yeah, because we had an amazing team.
Yeah. And he clearly gave Pineda too much rope. We've talked about that a million times. Anyway, we've got a game against Montreal tomorrow, Dave. We going to win that? Where's Montreal on the table? They're not so good.
They're fighting with us, right? It's a 6-pointer.
Yeah.
They're the other team that could potentially get there. Well, there's a bunch of people because it's MLS, right? Yeah. So if I'm going to pull it up.
Are we in 11th place in the table?
Yeah, but only 3 points out of the playoff spot, right?
Like everybody else?
Yeah, with everybody else. So the last playoff spot is Philadelphia. They're at 37. Toronto's at 37. So you got to get above them. So basically you're talking about for that last 2 play-in games, which is pathetic just to be able to get in a play-in game. But it's Toronto, Philadelphia at 37, Montreal at 37, us at 34, DC United 34, and maybe you could argue Nashville at 33, but probably at that point not so good. So you're talking about DC United, Atlanta, Montreal, Philadelphia, and Toronto for 2 spots.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Philadelphia has a horrible run-in. They have a tough schedule. All the teams have 3 games left, right?
And, even if we do make the playoffs.
Yeah, if we make the playoffs, we're playing in that first playing game and we're going out.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, nobody should be any bit excited about being 8th or 9th in the table in the MLS because the league only has 15 teams. So if you're 9th, you're below halfway. You make the playoffs, but you're below halfway. Nobody should be excited about that. We should not be excited about that, right? Valentino should not get credit for that. Right?
So if Vieira is our coach,
and when Pineda left, right, we were in either 12th or 13th, right?
Yeah.
And we've moved to 11th. Woo! Yeah. Right? It's not like, Valentino got on the team and suddenly went on a run.
Yeah. We had a run on 3 ties, dude.
3 ties.
2 ties on the road.
Lucky, late go. We had one that we should have won, maybe because we got equalized lucky too, but 2 of them were equalized late. So in the end, we probably should have had 1 win and 2 losses.
Yeah. Now, Montreal tomorrow at home. What's your prediction?
Tie. Because that's what we're not good enough to win.
I think that's a very strong prediction.
Montreal's a crap team.
Yeah, they're a crap team.
They're a total crap team, and they're on the road. So everything says that this should, with our roster even, which is not great anymore, but even with our roster, it should be an easy win.
Yeah. I say we squeak out a win. Squeak. But I think you're right. I think it's gonna be a tie. Every bit of logic would say a tie, but
I just showed you why it's going to be a tie, because we give up way too many chances too easily. And I'm not even talking about like shots. I'm talking about quality advances up the field.
Yeah.
Right? We allow teams to get from their third to our third so easily.
Yeah.
There is nothing. It's like, breezy easy.
Yeah.
Right? And that you cannot win that way sustainably. You can win a game because you can score and you can get lucky because they get a couple of good chances. But even if you dominate, and this was happening, under Pineda, it's happening under Valentina. Even the moments where we play really well and like dominate, we still give up a couple of great chances because we cannot make it hard for anybody to get up the field.
Question for you, Dave.
Yeah.
If you're Lagaway right now, do you call Bob Bradley up, who just became available?
As I told you, I would have called Bruce Arena.
You take Arena over Bob Bradley?
Yeah, because for two reasons. One, Arena has a better record in MLS. He's a better coach.
Yeah,
he is a better coach. There's just no doubt about it. He's a better coach record at every level. But the other thing about it is Bruce Arena is old, right? He only going to coach 2 years, 3 years, whatever. So I would have said, and he probably would have taken, the moment that Pineda got fired, or even now, he probably would have taken a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
Right. And said, look, have a 1 year, see how you do. If we love it, we'll extend it year by year. We'll play year by year. You're old. You can tell us when you want to walk away. We have the option of walking away if you don't do well. He'd probably take that. Yeah. For our club, to be at a big club in the MLS for his final, he'd probably take that.
Yeah.
Now, there's all this stuff about what he said, but nobody knows anything about what he said. So he's out there. Yeah. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that if he has, you want to talk about the 2 years or year and a half that Vieira, I guess it's really 2 years, but Vieira did okay in MLS. I mean, Bruce Arenas won the title in MLS how many times?
Don't know.
6, 5.
6, yeah.
Right. I mean, it's a lot at multiple clubs.
But he's old, like you said, and
he's won the Supporters Shield with 3 different clubs.
It's a different league.
Yeah, but and I'm not saying, is Bruce Arena going to be the best coach in MLS like he used to be? Maybe not, but he's still going to be top 5, right? And he's still going to give you a chance. You see it, right? Like he did with that New England side. He won the Supporters Shield with New England. Yeah, I mean, come on, that is not a great.
Who is the All-Star on the New England that year?
Was it Gil by that point?
Yeah,
no, I mean,
I'm kind of joking.
Joking.
I'm joking with you. But
nobody.
The fact that you even knew somebody who played on that team is what I'm laughing at. All right. What else?
But I would say Bruce Arena. But the other thing is, I would say, I put out, if you want to be the big club, right? And we said this, and I don't know why anybody's not talking about this. If you say, look, you got the biggest fan base, you're in a big city. We shouldn't be reaching for like global domination, being a bigger club than Real Madrid or Man United. That's a pipe dream. But we should be reaching for being the dominant club in MLS. The way you do that, the way these clubs do that, if you want to be Bayern Munich, is you poach and you kill the other MLS sides. And that's hard to do in a salary cap league with players, but it's not hard to do with coaches. Yeah. So what you do is you look at the rest of the league and you say, who's the best coach? And you take them.
Yeah. So I'll just be the nemesis on Twitter for you, Dave. They're like, well, Atlanta is not that big of a club anymore. It's not bigger than Columbus or Cincinnati.
We are a bigger club.
We are bigger.
Yeah. We have more money.
But why?
Well, Columbus now has a really rich owner, but it's a tiny club in terms of a fan base. Yeah. Right. They actually splashed a little bit of cash like on Cucho, but overall, they're still not even close to us in terms of salaries. Because why would you do that? You can't recoup it. It's a tiny stadium with a tiny fan base.
Here's why. Because the Miami game reminded me of the fan base in Atlanta is still the biggest sleeping monster in MLS. And the product has gone away. And if you can bring in a coach to a club that can easily be the biggest club in MLS, and I'm still confused, Dave, as a soccer fanatic, and why I started this podcast, why or how Atlanta's soccer fandom is what it is beyond me. I still don't understand
I agree with that.
the aligning of the stars on how much collective interest there still is. Even like the passiveness, like it is still there. Like not everyone is the soccer nerds that are listening to this podcast or the two of us. And
because honestly, you might be saying it, you would be saying that anywhere. And no, if I were now, like, let's say I was Nashville, right? Even Nashville is a bigger city, but like I still wouldn't be saying, look,
Nashville, none of these clubs, Dave, can ever on a Saturday when, let's say next year Messi comes and we're actually playing well, do like a weekend where like it's a playoff run and we pack 72,000 people into the Mercedes-Benz with, you know,
we would have had 72,000 if we were.
We would have. Sure. We would have had easily. If I mean, there would have been tinfoil. There would have been like props, and we would be all over the internet as like, holy cow! Look at Atlanta, Europe. Like that is why Atlanta is a different head coaching proposition for any coach, not even an MLS coach, but any coach in the world. Because I mean, the fan base is for real. The interest is there.
I agree. So if I were Atlanta United right now, I would be looking at the top teams, right? I don't think Tata's leaving Inter Miami. He loves those guys, and he's already been here. But Columbus, Wilfred Nancy, people are like, oh, he's only going to Europe. If I were Wilfred Nancy, I would only leave Columbus to go to Europe. I agree with that. But you don't know unless you ask. Maybe he doesn't care about Europe. I mean, he's French, right, originally, but so you would think. But maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he doesn't get the opportunity, whatever. I would still reach out to him. The guy who's sitting like for a pick-in is Pat Noonan, right? Cincinnati. Who's, here's a Cincinnati, we're talking about, right? What do you do if you have a relegation club, if you're a coach, right? This is MLS. This is not the Premier League, but not that different, maybe relatively speaking, than the French league or something. Anyway, he got a team that had finished 2 consecutive years as the worst team in MLS, whatever the spoon they call that, the last place, the wooden spoon, right? So last place, right? His first year, he makes the playoff at 6. In his second year, he wins the Supporters Shield with the relegation team. Now they got a couple players, we were arguing about this because one of our good friends who was on, Twitter was tweeting at us, and he was saying that, but they got Lucho, right? And it was all about Lucho. And I was like, you think they did, but they didn't, actually. Lucho was already there, right? And was not so good until Noonan stayed there. The year before Noonan got there, Lucho was like a 6-goal and 3 assists kind of guy, whatever, somewhere in there. And then the next year, he was MVP, 20 goals and 15 assists or whatever, something ridiculous, right? What's the difference? The team didn't change, right? What changed was the fact that they got a better coach, Pat Noonan. And people are like, oh, yeah, but they got Brandon Vasquez so well. I'm like, Brandon Vasquez, we wanted to run him out of here. Nobody would even put him on the lineup, because when he was playing for us, right, he sucked. I thought he was really good, but the coach wouldn't put him on the field. He was certainly not looking like a 20-goal scorer. He goes to Pat Noonan's team, and boom,
he was coached under Tata, team. So you're kind of contradicting yourself.
Well, but when he was coached under Tata, he was like 17. It was actually De Boer, and then it was actually after De Boer, it was Heinze. Right. Okay. And those guys are the guys who blew it on him when, I give Tata a pass. He had a great team, and a 17-year-old wasn't going to break into that side. So, that's not the problem. Actually, if Tata had still been around, he probably would have brought him around. I don't think he wanted to get rid of him. I think he really liked him.
Okay.
Anyway, so Noonan. Okay. Who's the fourth place team in the East? Is Orlando. Again, right? We keep sneaking on this, Pareja, right? Who, if you want to go for an MLS coach who doesn't have the super whatever, but who is clearly a better coach than Vieira, Pareja. He keeps coaching these average MLS teams talent-wise, and he keeps finishing basically in the top 4 all the time. He doesn't win the title, but you can make an argument that he just needs a bigger club with the actual better players, right? He was amazing. I think he was coaching Dallas before, had them really good. They went into the crapper as soon as he left. He's coaching Orlando now.
Yeah.
I mean, does anybody who had Orlando for the second consecutive year being towards the top of the table?
Yeah.
They're 4th.
And you can only do that in MLS too, like to go after our fake derby rivals in Orlando and take the coach. Like in Europe, that would never happen. I guess in Germany it happens, but not in England.
Actually, in a lot of countries, England is
no,
the
but
exception.
like Klopp would never go to,
but
like,
England's the
Man
exception
City or something like that.
It's the exception in a lot of, and even in England, to be fair, from the lower clubs to the top clubs, they do, right? It happens all the time. If you're,
I think there's some boundaries that they just don't cross.
Maybe, but it's the least one. All the other leagues in Spain, they raid the best coaches from below.
For sure.
In Germany, they raid the coaches, best coach from below. Everywhere. Yeah. So let's start the trend, right? And if you're not going to do that, then go find us a winning coach. Period. Right? I'm fine with the saying, look, we can't do it, or maybe you try those and they don't succeed, right? Yeah. But all of that's better than Vieira.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like that. Isn't it concerning though that, I mean, the Felipe Cardenas, the Tom Bogarts, none of the people that are covering Atlanta specifically, they've got sources in South America and in Europe, I'm sure as well. Like, we're not really hearing that there's a global search.
No,
there's no global search. It ain't happening. You actually,
I think there's a firm which is so nuts. There's a search firm, and they have probably put some names on the table. They probably put some of the, they probably have Allegri on their global search, but that means that a search firm came to whatever, and Lagerwey was like, no, I don't think we can get him. That is not a search that you should got to reach out to
a
them.
Firm. This is it's maddening. That's like, let the firm do its thing.
Yeah, to identify that. What you want to do is to go out and have them identify coaches you wouldn't think of, and maybe you think of them.
A real president would have been on a plane to Europe with the list that he already had, knowing Pineda was about to fail because the stats were glooming towards that line, and you didn't get on a plane, and then you made the excuse of like, oh, we got to focus on signing Marinchuk. Like that. Well, and then you credit all of that to Bocanegra, and then you fire Bocanegra for signing another good player. I don't get it.
I can't even think outside the box. Like, if there's a guy who has won, 16 consecutive U17 club titles in in one of these top leagues in the youth club, whatever, I'd think about it. Sure.
Yeah, but no, you shouldn't.
I'm not saying this is where I would go first, but I would certainly go over that. You go for, find me a good coach who wins over a mediocre coach who's proven that.
If you're going to do what you say, like, you have to find like somebody who's like
exceptional,
like who's breaking all the data. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, well, we're going to gamble. Unlike, and that's a different gamble than a Pineda, who's just an assistant coach behind somebody. Yeah. So all the wins go to what's his name? Who's the Seattle coach? Schwartz. What's his?
No, yeah, I know.
Anyway, the German guy. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, being a head coach and being on some string of like 7 years of just smashing it all the way up through your coaching career, that's a different gamble than somebody who's an assistant coach who's just doing stuff in the background.
I agree. Find me a head coach.
Yeah.
Period.
Even
a college coach.
Yeah.
I'm not, again, people are probably out there screaming, go with college. That's not where I'd start. No, I'd start with
I'd
start with Allegri.
Exactly. Let's be super clear. Our expectation.
Yeah.
But even so.
But we're doing this to make a point.
We're making the point is, if you are going to say Allegri's impossible, a better choice is to get somebody who's a winner.
I always talk about this, at basketball, college basketball. Bo Ryan, who was the Wisconsin coach, right? So Bo Ryan was a division no, but he's a Division III coach, right? And he had won national championship after national championship at one of the University of Wisconsin, whatever schools, right? And he wanted the Wisconsin Madison head job. And they were like, nah, you're a Division III coach, whatever. They passed him over. They hired someone else, chumped it, fired him. They looked again. He said, yeah, I really want the job. They passed him over, fired, whatever. Then finally, they were like, lowest point of low. They hired him, right? He went to the national championship game at Division I, right? He had them in like 16 consecutive tournament seasons. He went to the Final Four. Like, coach can coach, right? Like, and they were idiots, right? I mean, this is the step up from Wisconsin Division III basketball to Wisconsin Division I basketball. But my point being that and so you have to do the same corresponding whatever to say whatever. But like if there was some coach who is just absolutely dominant in the USL for multiple years, like let him step up, but prove it. Prove that you can coach first.
So I'm going to give us 5 minutes to wind things down, Dave. Who do you think is going to win MLS Cup this year?
Well, a healthy Miami is going to win.
Yeah.
I mean, there are really, the East is dominant, right? It's Columbus, Cincinnati, and Miami, the best 3 teams in the MLS, period. One of them is going to win the championship. Of them, I would say the best 2 are Columbus and Miami, right? Miami has the higher upside because Messi's firing on all cylinders. There ain't nothing going to stop that. The best overall team might be Columbus, but you can't stop the best player in the world, right? Like if he's on it, right, and he's healthy and he's rested, forget it. So I would have to say that it's going to be Columbus again or Miami for sure. Those are the 2 teams you would bet on. And I would say if Messi really is healthy, you bet on Miami. No, I'm going to bet against him.
All right.
Tata's a great coach. He's going to win it.
I agree.
The only thing that can stop them is him not really being 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that's an easy bet.
That's what I gambled on at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Don't mean to rub it in, but
And I said you were right, except for Messi was going to get hurt.
He did, but he did get hurt just early enough.
I just thought that he would, Ha! To be fair, it's a good call to be like,
Yeah. So have we talked about it all?
Yeah.
You get the tactics out of your system. Dave earlier this week, folks, he wanted to podcast earlier than this evening. He had a lot of pent up on that whole situation with Gressel getting the ball out wide and having all day, and the over the top ball in that Philadelphia game really had him worked up on Valentino. That a legacy from Pineda have just built up that,
it was in the Philadelphia game, right? 32nd minute, perfect example. Philly in a bad spot and super easily breaks it, leads to a counter and almost a goal, right? 45th minute, another textbook example of how we suck at matching up, and it's so easy. This time, a effing throw-in I wrote. How much easier can it get to match up off an effing throw-in, right?
We need a throwing coach.
56th minute, yet another horrible example, right? I mean, I was just like going through, right? And I was like, it's happening over and over and over again, and it's pathetic. And it drives me nuts. If you want to watch, if you're an Atlanta United fan, watch the team and ask yourself, are we making it hard for anybody to get up the field? Are they breaking us down? Are they dribbling by someone? Are they doing a split the line pass? Does someone turn a defender? Does someone do a great give and go in his running? No, none of that. You don't need any of that to beat us.
No.
You just watch it and you're like, oh, open guy, pass it to me. I mean, you and I could do this at our decrepit ages. Like,
Like, hey, there's an open guy.
They said, no, hey, he's Mikey Dobbs. It's out wide. And why are they not marking him? Right. I mean, it's crazy. And when I keep saying to myself, like, am I, totally imagining it? Am I hallucinating? Whatever. I watch Premier League, right? Man United, who, has had a tough, and people are all over Ten Hag and blah, 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 right? You watch them, right? Nobody gets up the field without beating people. Now, they had a couple of moments where Tottenham just really broke them down, ticky-tacky football with a guy on a guy, whatever.
Yeah, and it's a break.
Like, good for you.
Yeah.
Now, the Premier League, some of those players are really good. Yeah. And Tottenham is a really well-coached team. Their movement is terrific.
And that's just it. Like, when you watch the Premier League and they play out of the back and they have that, once they make through that third level and it just all of a sudden is out to Son or whoever, and then he's just bombing down there. You're like, man, that was amazing that they were able to even get it out of the back and then play it up to him up the wing. Like, it's exciting.
And I want to make,
if we get beat that way, Dave, I'm okay.
I want to make two other points, right? So one thing I've been saying over and over and over, if you go back to Pineda and his airplanes, right? And I was like, it's so stupid because we don't need it. They can get forward occasionally and they would be running, right? Instead of whatever. And to credit Valentino, offensively, our backs are back and they're still getting forward, right? Lennon created.
And Amador has been in the box.
Amador makes about, 4 or 5 runs up the field a game, and he get almost, assists on every single game, right? He comes up and he serves a great ball, right? Lennon came out, and I'm trying to remember now because all the games are blurring together. But Lennon, Moranchuk fed him in. He crossed the ball beautifully for a tap-in header by Saba at the far post. Mm-hmm. And the timing of that run, Moranchuk had the ball, and Lennon was all the way on. Moranchuk could see it the whole time. He let him in, and Lennon did a beautiful job. He didn't force it. He chipped it to the far post, and for an easy goal, right? But my point about all of that is, right, in that game, he probably went forward 5 times, right? Under Pineda, he went forward 60 times, right? And under 60 times, he had 10 crosses and never gave it anything because nothing was in rhythm, nothing was in flow, right? This time it was in flow, and of those, we're probably just as dangerous with him going forward 5 times as we are with him going forward 40. And Amador the same way. One of the things they're proving is that if you time it and you go forward when it's on, that's all you need, right? You can still create that out of your outside back without doing stupid airplanes.
Yeah. All right, Dave, I'll let you get it out of your system. We talked about it all.
Yep, talked about it all.
We talked about it all. So season's winding down. Montreal, do or die tomorrow night. The battle of less than mediocre.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, Mercedes-Benz.
Joseph's
still playing.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Yeah. The return of the king.
Yeah. So, that's sad. Sad that he might, I could see him putting the dagger in it.
Yeah, he's going to score a hat trick.
Yeah.
It'll probably be 3-3. Joseph 3, Atlanta 3.
Hey, at least it would be something for the fans to close the season out.
We've gotten ties.
Yeah.
And it's been entertaining.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you got to give it to if you're going to give some credit to Pineda, he hasn't solved, I think, a lot of the things that we need. And he hasn't had nearly the same squad. Yeah. Could Pineda turn out to be.
Or Valentino.
Valentino, could he turn out to be a really excellent coach? I think he could be above average coach, maybe, because if he had Pineda's squad from the beginning of the year, we wouldn't be in this spot. Now, I don't think he's winning MLS title at all, because if you watch the way we match up, it's horrible, and he has no clue about that. So you're not winning the MLS anymore without that, right? But he's way better than Pineda.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening. Get ready for the opening of Wild Heaven Toco Hills. Late October. Oh, yeah. Top 2. There we go, Dave. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Woohoo.